1 year ago, I started my 3D printing business in this tiny 100 square foot home office. I had no idea what I was getting into. I just started listing products, printing, and hoping for the best. Fast forward through many late nights, failed prints, and thousands of dollars in sales, and I learned if I had to start this business over today, I would do these 10 things completely different. Let's jump in. The first thing I would do different is I would stop ordering filament one spool at a time and start ordering in bulk. And not only that, I would buy bigger spools as well, like 3 kg or even 5 kg spools, because if you're not buying in bulk, your material costs are going to be way more. And more importantly, you're going to be risking inconsistency with the filament. I found this out the hard way this holiday season. I had 2 identical spools of black Sunlu PLA, and during a print, when the AMS switched over from one spool to the second, when I pulled that product off the build plate, it was 2 different shades of black, which wasn't ideal, to say the least. Now, this is because these spools didn't come from the same batch. I had no idea that different batches from the same manufacturer would look slightly different, but now I know. Also, having plenty of filament on hand will help prevent any unwanted downtime in case you get a rush of orders. Ask me how I know about that. I definitely didn't have to drive 45 minutes each way to buy emergency filament from Micro Center. Definitely not. Now, what about those large spools? Why would you buy those? Well, using large spools is nice because you can kind of set it and forget it. You change them out way less often, which is important when you have many printers and they are operating 24/7. This business can be labor intensive, so any small time savings like this are a big win in the long run. Now, you might be saying, why not just use the AMS? And I'd say, yeah, do it. I love the AMS. It saves me so much time and energy. The only issue is sometimes when they change over to the next spool during a print, it can cause a blemish or just not change over at all, like in the case of a tangle or something like that. I've also been trying out the Infinity Flow, but I don't have a verdict on that yet. The moral of the story is stop paying $20 per roll and start buying in bulk. Whether it's on Amazon, from the brand website, or Alibaba, where rolls are super cheap, but you might have to buy quite a bit, this will make a huge difference on how much money you actually make. The second thing I would do differently is I would optimize my slicer settings for every print right away. Many people stick to the default settings in their slicer without realizing it's costing them time and money. Small adjustments like decreasing the infill or even removing the infill, changing the layer height, removing unnecessary supports, and optimizing print speeds can dramatically cut down on how much filament you use and how much time you spend printing, which ultimately will help make you more money. Also, another thing you want to keep in mind is to optimize for print quality. I've ran into issues with nasty layer lines showing because I printed too fast or I didn't print the outer walls first, having thin or large parts warp because I didn't use a brim or turn off the auxiliary fan, and having ugly round surfaces because I didn't use the smooth feature. Trust me, investing a little bit of time to find the perfect settings for each product is going to pay off immensely, and it will save you huge headaches down the line as you are desperately trying to fulfill orders. Check out Factorian Designs on YouTube if you want to learn the best settings for your prints. He does a fantastic job of explaining things. The third thing that I would do differently is I would avoid selling products that require a lot of post-processing unless you can charge a lot for them. I learned this the hard way as well. I've spent countless hours post-processing this year because my best sellers required it. I'm grateful they sold well, but man, it took a lot of work to get them ready to be shipped. Sometimes I would have to sand, paint, add magnets, glue pieces together, and the end result was great, but it took a lot of my time. Time I could have spent elsewhere to keep growing my business instead of just holding it steady. So yeah, just keep this in mind when you're choosing a product to sell. If it requires a lot of post-processing, charge a premium for it because it is going to be way harder for you to scale in the long run. The best way to think about this is if you had to hire someone to do all of your post-processing, how long would it take them to do it? And how much would it cost you? Then factor that into the price of your product. So yeah, don't get me wrong, you can still make a lot of money with prints that require a lot of post-processing. Just look at the individuals that sell art. It takes a lot of time to put it together, but they sell it for thousands of dollars. Just do whatever feels best for you. The fourth thing I would do differently is I wouldn't overlook the importance of product photography. This is the first thing customers see, and it needs to stand out if you want to get sales. Nobody is going to click on your listing if the photos look like shit. Take some time to take high quality photos and a video. Don't forget the video. You don't need expensive equipment. If you have a newer smartphone, that will work great. Just find a clean background or use fake ones like I do. Get a light and snap some photos. Then use Photoshop or Canva to really make them stand out. Taking a bit of time here will pay back immensely. And if you want to see exactly how I take my high quality photos from home, check out the video in my members area for a deep dive. The fifth thing I would have done differently is I would have invested in time-saving tools right away. This one really stood out to me in this business. Everything just takes time. Loading filament, slicing, printing, post-processing, packing, labeling, shipping, answering customer questions, staying on top of inventory, and the list goes on and on. So having tools that can save you time is huge. There are two categories, physical tools and software. Here are my favorite physical tools. Firstly, my Bamboo Lab printers with the AMS. They just make life so easy. It just works. I hardly have any problems. They're easy to maintain and the print quality is great. 90% of the time, I hit print and I don't even check on it until it's done because I'm confident it will come out perfect. And that frees up a lot of my time and mental load because I don't have to be constantly worrying about my prints. Now, that being said, obviously you don't have to go with Bamboo Lab printers. There's plenty of other great options on the market right now. Just choose what works best for you and your budget. Some other tools are my label printer. I love this thing. A scale so I can save money on shipping. This 3D pen / soldering iron. I hate when I have to use this, but to be honest, it's saved my ass before when I had to repair a print and get it out on time. This tape cutter, which lets me cut multiple pieces of tape at once. This tape dispenser for boxing up products. My gigantic blowtorch to get rid of stringing on some of my prints. Just be careful with this one because you can melt your prints pretty quick if you're not careful. A scraper to remove parts easily from the bed. A deburring tool to clean up edges of prints. My inline exhaust to keep my office free of harmful fumes. More on that later. This amazing air quality monitor to make sure my exhaust is working correctly. An electric screwdriver and drill. Believe it or not, in 2025, I was still using a manual screwdriver and this gigantic electric drill to work on things in my mini print farm. And boy, I was definitely missing out. Over the past few months, I've been testing out these tools from Fantic. They sent over this E2 Ultra. It's an electric screwdriver that comes in a sleek metal tube. I've been using this one a lot to put together the new printers I've gotten to keep up with the holiday orders. It's USB rechargeable, has tons of different bits, plus a pair of tweezers and whatever this is called, but I'm sure it's useful. It has different speed settings and a light on the end, which helps when you're working in a dark spot. They also sent over this K2 Nano, which is their electric precision drill. Again, it comes in a nice, well-designed case, lots of bits, USB rechargeable, a light, speed settings, plus 2 little storage compartments. I don't use this one as much, but when I do use it, it's quite enjoyable, especially compared to my massive drill that is overkill most of the time and too big to fit into small spaces. I get a lot of sponsors reaching out to me on the channel and I say no to 99% of them, but the reason why I said yes to Fantic is because I've used their tools in the past and I've genuinely enjoyed them. I've even had an issue with one of their tools in the past and Fantic quickly resolved that issue, no questions asked. It just goes to show that they're a good company. So if you're interested in picking one of these up, you can use my code down below to get a discount, and you'll help support the channel at the same time. Thank you again to Fantic for sponsoring this portion of the video. Moving on, we have software. Some that I use pretty frequently are Plasticity and Shaper 3D when I want to make designs on the go, Photoshop and Canva to help create my product photos, and Bamboo Studio or Orca to slice my files, and Everbee at the moment to do product research. The sixth thing I would have done differently is I would have scheduled USPS Pickups instead of driving to the post office like a dummy. Believe it or not, you can create a free business account on the USPS website, and you can have them come to your house or business to pick up all your orders for free, which is awesome. They can even knock or ring on your doorbell if you don't want to leave your packages outside. I wish I would have known about this earlier because it would have saved me so much time driving back and forth to the post office. The seventh thing I would have done differently is I would have focused more on my best-selling products instead of constantly trying to create new ones. Early on, once I verified that a product was selling well on Etsy, I should have really stopped treating it like just another listing and actually focus on it and double down on it. So that means listing that same product on other platforms like Amazon, Shopify, TikTok Shop, or whatever else made sense, so I could maximize its reach instead of relying on just one marketplace. Along with that, I should have focused more on running ads, specifically on those bestsellers, and actually optimizing them so they were profitable. I had trouble with that initially because I was spreading my ad spend across too many products that hadn't proven themselves yet. So yeah, looking back, I spent too much time chasing new ideas when I already had products that were working. The eighth thing I would have done differently is I wouldn't have overlooked customer service, especially early on. One small thing that made a bigger difference than I expected was including a short handwritten thank you note with every order. It didn't take much time, but it really helped personalize the business and made customers feel appreciated, which led to better reviews and honestly helped prevent bad ones. I also made it a priority to respond to customer messages quickly and clearly. Looking back, great customer service wasn't just about getting good reviews, it was about preventing bad reviews and building trust. And for a small shop, that goes a long way. The ninth thing I would have done differently is I would have used different nozzle sizes other than 0.4 millimeters. 0.4 millimeters is great, and it's been the standard for a while, but it can be quite slow in certain situations. Upgrading to a larger nozzle like a 0.6 or even a 0.8 can really speed up your prints, which will help you produce more things faster. So just think about it. If switching to a larger nozzle can save you even just a few hours per print, over the course of a year, that adds up to a lot of time. Just keep in mind that 0.6 or 0.8 nozzles won't work for every print. If what you're printing has a ton of detail, or if it's very small, these aren't the way to go. They work great for functional parts or prints that don't have a ton of detail. And finally, last but certainly not least, the 10th thing I would have done differently is I would have set up my ventilation properly from the start. When I got my first 3D printer, I had no idea that they produced fumes, VOCs, and ultrafine particles. I just assumed they were safe because that was the assumption from a lot of people. Then I started to get headaches, itchy, scratchy eyes and throat and nose, and so did my family. It felt like allergy symptoms that just came out of nowhere. I then quickly realized it was due to the 3D printer, so I searched and searched to figure out how I could print safely, which was not an easy task. It took me quite a while to really figure out some good solutions, and here's a quick rundown of what I think works best. I will make a whole dedicated video about this later on, but first, the ideal solution, in my opinion, is to have a shed or a detached garage. Essentially, just a dedicated space for your 3D printers that is detached from your house. That way the fumes have no chance of coming into your living area. If you don't have that, the next option, which might work for some people, is to stick them in a room like this. This is my laundry room, and it has a powerful exhaust on the ceiling. You could stick your printers in here and just run the exhaust while printing, and that's going to work pretty well. You could also do this in your garage as well if you have some sort of exhaust system in there. But if none of those work for you, you can also use a filtration system like this one I have here from Avilo. I probably just pronounced that wrong, but Bamboo Lab also makes them as well, along with Snapmaker and Xtool. These work pretty good. Just keep in mind the filter won't last forever, and you will have to replace it as it gets saturated. The filters also don't capture 100% of the fumes, so you will still be contaminating the air slightly over time. That's why I use these in the garage. And lastly, another option you can do is to vent your fumes outside with some sort of inline fan system like I have. I have my printers in an enclosure, which cuts down on the noise, a must-have because they're in my office. It also helps to avoid warping because the exhaust is not pulling air directly from inside the printer. It's pulling the air around the printer, if that makes sense. This setup is quite involved, unfortunately. You will need an inline fan, ducting, connections, and some sort of window insert or port. I'm using a piece of acrylic that I bought on Amazon, but I have used wood in the past. You'll also notice I have an intake vent because all the air being pulled out of the room has to be replaced somehow for the exhaust to work effectively. And I also don't want carbon monoxide being pulled back into the house because my furnace is right next to this office. So yeah, like I said, it's pretty involved. You may also want to get an air quality monitor like this one from Air Gradient. That way you know your filters or exhaust are working correctly. The worst part about these fumes is the fact that you can't see them. That's why most people don't think they're an issue. But if you get a good air quality monitor like this one, you will start to see how bad the air is getting when you start printing. Also, no matter which option you choose, it may be beneficial to get some sort of smoke device like this. It really helps to identify if your exhaust or filters are working correctly. Now, this may be a bigger issue for me than it is for you, but I take this very seriously, especially with family and my kids running around the house. Clean air is a must. But if you feel differently, that's totally fine. Do whatever feels best for you. I'm not judging. If you made it to the end, you're awesome. I hope you got some value out of this video. I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button, and there's more content coming soon. See you in the next one.